Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. If you have been keeping up with my videos and my blog posts, I've kind of been talking about just topics surrounding motherhood and childbirth. I've already shared my breastfeeding journey. It's the little one. I've already shared my experience of having a midwife, and I have shared my experience of also my pregnancy experience, because everybody does not have a good pregnancy or you know. But anywho, if you're new to my channel revolves around topics pertaining to natural living, photography, motherhood, and just like trending topics in lifestyle. So that's pretty much what my channel is about. Make sure that you subscribe so that you'll be notified of when I post new videos. But yeah, I'm just gonna jump into this video. I will be talking about my experience of having a doula. So I am gonna try to keep this video kind of short. I'm gonna try to keep it brief. So I'm not gonna talk about every single detail that happened because yeah, it was a lot that happened. And I know my last two videos are like 30 minutes long. So I'm just gonna try to give y'all the shortened version. So in the beginning, so I actually did not hire a doula until I was like 8 months pregnant. Excuse me. And I talked about this in my blog post, how I hired a midwife and a doula at the end of my pregnancy. But when I talked with them, they were like, this has happened before. Like, this is something that they've experienced before as far as helping somebody late in their pregnancy. And like I said, I just got done blogging about my experience of having a midwife. My experience of having a midwife was really good. Like, I wish that I would have had the opportunity or the chance to give birth at her center. But this video is about the doula that I hired. And I don't want to call it a bad experience, but it was not, well, it was a bad experience. It was not what I had in mind. And I think that as far as like the role of a doula, the role of a doula, I feel like she did not fulfill her duty as a doula. So my words are just like running together. But so yeah, let me start from the beginning. Like I said, I was 8 months. I was actually just looking at my stories like from Snap, and I was posting about me meeting a doula, and that was in April of last year. So I had my son in June. So when I calculated April, May, June, I was about 7 or 8 months pregnant when I hired my doula. When I hired her, I was like really excited about it because I found out she also went to FAMU, but she did graduate before me. So I was excited about that because you just kind of feel like you have something in common. And then she actually lived down the road from me, so sometimes we would meet at the park and talk. That would be kind of like our meetings, but it was like an informal meeting. And I kind of felt like she helped me. Well, okay, I'm gonna just leave it there. So that was the beginning part. Like I said, I was really excited because I felt like we had a lot of things in common. And honestly, I went through this organization where I live, and I wanted to find a black doula because I wanted somebody who understood what it means to be a black woman, basically. And that's not to say that I'm discriminating against white women or whatever you want to call it, that I'm racist. It's just that, black women know what other black women go through. Like, we know what each other, we know how it is to be a black woman. So I just didn't feel comfortable having a white doula. I think that that's something that I would, well, it's not that I didn't feel comfortable because I actually did speak to some white doulas. However, I just wanted somebody that understood what it meant to be a black woman, basically. So yeah, that was the beginning. So everything was pretty much all set. So with the doula, I had actually interviewed another doula, but I went with this doula that I hired because so they have different packages. If you've ever hired a doula, you know what I'm talking about. And basically her package included, I feel like it included everything. There was like a there was like birth classes. There was like, well, you get like prenatal visits, and then they're also on call at the end of your pregnancy. But of course, and my package was like $1,000 and something, to be honest. So it is kind of expensive. And then I also realized that I had spent like, well, the original package was $1,000 something, but I spent $800 just for 2 months basically. Whereas normally you would spend that much for like the whole 9 months. So I'm just gonna talk about some things that I saw that rubbed me the wrong way. And I am going to include this with a blog post, so I'm gonna leave that link in the description box, just talking about like what I've learned, like what I would do differently next time I hire a doula. And let me just say, like, I believe that doulas are needed. Even though I had a bad experience, that's not gonna stop me from hiring another doula. I think I'm just gonna be more careful next time. So I do wish that I would have I guess confronted her earlier. Because I actually didn't say anything to her until after I had my son, which with the package that I had, the only thing that was left was that she would do one postpartum visit, and in that visit we were supposed to talk about like what my experience was and everything. So the things that really bothered me about her was that I just felt like she wasn't professional, and I felt like, as far as like what a doula is supposed to do, like how they're supposed to help you, I felt like it wasn't comprehensive care. I felt like she did help me a little bit, but as far as like what I really wanted, what I really hired her for, I didn't get that help, unfortunately. And let me just say, like, I hired her because I knew that I would need like emotional support. And even though my husband wasn't going to be in the room, I kind of felt like it would be helpful to have like another woman there, because like I said, women, like, we understand each other. We know what each other goes through. So that's why I wanted to have a doula. And then also having a doula, it kind of saves you the time of like doing research yourself and stuff like that. So you may be wondering, like, do I really need a doula and stuff like that? It just depends on what you want, pretty much. But I just wanted somebody there to kind of like help me along the way and for that emotional support. So yeah, what I was saying as far as like her professionalism, I just felt like she wasn't professional. I felt like she made our relationship, it was supposed to be a business relationship, and I understand, like, honestly, I'm okay with having a friendship with business, but I feel like business comes first. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I confronted her and kind of like talked to her about like, hey, what's going on here, she was just saying that she was trying to do me a favor because I was she was saying that she was trying to say that she was trying to do me a favor because I was like tight on finances, and I was like, well, I never told you that. Like, that's not what I told you. The issue that I was having was that I was actually, well, I'm not going to get into too much details, but I was actually on leave from work, and I had to wait for my paycheck to come in. So that was the issue in the beginning. But I told her, we actually came to an agreement that if I don't get my paycheck in time, then I could just do a discounted package, which basically mean, I forgot what she called it, hard something. But it's basically the package where, like, if you can't afford it, then you kind of get, it was like $500, and then she would just be there for the birth, right? And then the other part of the agreement was that if I did get my full check, then I would just buy the full package. That's what we'll get on, and I ended up getting my check. So I could afford her. I would have had to do it in payments, though. So when she brought up that, when she tried to say, oh, well, I know you and your husband were tight for money, so I was just trying to do you a favor and stuff like that, I was like, well, first of all, I didn't ask you to do me a favor. Like, I'm paying you to help me. So I didn't like that she tried to just make it seem like she was just trying to help me out when I had the money to pay her, and I actually was paying her. So So another thing that I didn't like about what happened with her is that we were supposed to go over a contract, but she never gave me a contract. And I actually, this is one of the things that I've learned that I'm going, next time I'm just going to make sure that there's a contract, and that's what I signed up front in the beginning. Because I actually, we talked about going over the contract and signing everything. But after we initially met, she didn't bring it back up. And I actually had forgot about it because I was just trying to worry about myself. Like, it was, I wasn't like struggling or anything, but like I was just really like tired and stuff like that, and I was just trying to like make sure that I was good. So that wasn't like necessarily on my mind, you know what I'm saying? So the other thing that I didn't like with her was that we were supposed to meet, and like I said, these were kind of like informal meetings. So we would like meet at the park and like go walking, and that we would talk about, you know, just the situation or whatever. There was one time we were supposed to meet, and I think I had fell asleep or something, and I woke back up and I texted and I said, hey, you know, don't worry about meeting. I had fell asleep, and she was like, oh, I totally forgot we were supposed to meet today. She was like, excuse you. She said, oh, I forgot we were supposed to meet today. And then she was like, I was in my garden all day today. And I'm just like, okay. I was like, things happen, so I didn't really I was really trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. And that's why I went and I should have said something earlier, but that really rubbed me the wrong way. And then as far as payments, like I said, we never went over a contract. So she never told me, hey, this is when the payment is due. This is when you have to have the payment. You have to have all of them before you give birth. She never told me that, right? So, bye. She never told me that, right? So, you trying to touch it? You see yourself? Okay. So because she never initiated that conversation with me, I initiated with her, and I just said, hey, I get paid every 2 weeks. I'll just pay you whenever I get paid. So she agreed. But then sometime later, now, this is another thing I don't like. If we have to talk about money, like, you need to call me or we need to meet in person. But she texted me and she goes, oh, my company, they just want to make sure that I'm getting paid and stuff, so we need to talk about you submitting a payment. So I'm just like, okay, but I told you that I'll get paid. I told you that when I get paid, I'll pay you, so I don't see what the deal is. And she was like, well, you haven't made I had already made a payment, I think, maybe like $200 or something like that. I think that was a deposit. You know, I'm like, if you need a payment, just say so. But if you're not gonna say anything, then I'm just pay you whenever I get the money. So that was my thinking. So that rubbed me the wrong way as well. So I ended up sending her the money, and I was just wondering why didn't she call me? Because that's not something that you talk about over text, right? So that was one thing. The other thing was, now maybe I had high expectations, but when you talk about birth classes, I'm thinking that we're going to be in a room, maybe with other women, or maybe it's just me and my husband with the doula, and she's going to have like charts and stuff out, and just like, you know, pictures and stuff to show us. But it was none of that. She actually met us, the place that she worked at, you see what I have to go through? But the place that she worked at, she actually met us there on a Saturday, I believe it was, because there was nobody there. It was just us. But she actually just sat with us and talked to us. It wasn't like a formal birth class. She just sat in. We weren't even like in a room with it just us. We were out in the lobby, sitting out in the chairs, like the wait area, and she was talking to us. And she sent over like a Google Doc with some information on it. So at the time, I was just kind of like trying to take in information. I didn't think any of it, but that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm like, at least we could have been like in a room not out in a waiting area. And then the other thing was she did come to our place to go over have another birth class, and that wasn't that long. But I also realized that she never went over like breathing techniques with me, because I know that's part of like when you're trying to have like a natural birth. That's a major thing. So I called her. No, I think I texted her and I said, I noticed that we didn't go over breathing techniques. Is that not included in the package or anything? And she just kind of hit me. It was weird the way she responded, because she was just like, well, was my birth class, was it not good or something? Was it not enough for you? And I was like, no, it was it was helpful, but we never went over breathing techniques. So then she kind of hit me. It was weird again, because then she kind of hit me with a text, and she was just like, you don't trust me or anything? And I was like, yeah, I trust you, but we didn't go over any breathing techniques. And so then she was like, well, just trust me. And her response was, well, I'll tell you what to do when you're in labor. So I'm thinking like, okay, well, it didn't sit right with me, but I was just kind of like, okay, well, maybe she knows what she's talking about. So that was another thing. So let me interject here and say that she was helpful sometimes, but as far as like my overall experience, I don't feel like she was helpful, because like, of course, I would text her, like call her if I had questions, and we would, she would help me that way. She would give suggestions. Like one time she told me about this iron medicine I could take. It was a liquid iron. Hey, do you mind? And also, she did help me find a pediatrician. It was a referral basically, and then she also helped me find my midwife. So in that way, she did help me. Like, she was there if I had questions and stuff like that. But other than that, I just kind of felt like what I really needed her for, as far as like the emotional support, it wasn't there. So the other thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way was that, so I think this was actually after I had my son, and this is when I confronted her. We were supposed to meet, and then I think what it was that she was supposed to meet us at our house again, and I was looking at the time, and it was close to the time, but she texted me at the last minute and was just like, oh, my child is at the pediatrician. I'll let you know what happens. So I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I understand stuff happens. Like, I didn't like that she texted me at the last minute, but I understand that stuff happens, so I wasn't going to hold that against her, because, sometimes you just can't help when things happen. But she never got back with me that day. I had to end up texting her the next day, and I was just kind of done with it after that, because my thing is like, if we're supposed to meet, then let's meet. If you can't for some reason, then just communicate that with me. And I did tell her, like, your communication is like off, because like I told her communication is bad. I did tell her that. So that was my issue. And then okay. So here's the kicker. Now, I feel like if a doula is not there for anything else, they should be there for the birth, right? So mind you, I was like 38 weeks when I was induced. I'm not going to get into the details of that, but that was on my last video when I was talking about my birth story. But I had to be induced at 38 weeks, right? Me and my husband, we actually went to the hospital because my pressure was rising, but we didn't think that we were going to be induced that night. I just thought they were going to help my pressure go back down, and they were going to release me. So that night we were just surprised that I was going to be induced. But nonetheless, I don't even remember how we got in this conversation, but my doula offers to change my package, and she said, oh, I can offer you virtual services. And, you know, she was just saying that she wasn't prepared to come in yet. When I say come in, I mean as far as like come to the hospital, meet me at the hospital. So at the time, I should have told her like, no, I would rather you be there. But, you know, she kind of presented it as like, well, it'll be cheaper for you. You only have to pay $800 as opposed to the 1,000. It was like 1,500 or something like that. Okay, try this again. But okay, what I was saying was that I don't even remember how we got on the conversation, but my doula offered to change my package, and she offered to help me virtually. At the time, I should have said no, but when she presented it as like it'll be cheaper for you because it'll be $800 compared to the 1,000 or something that I was gonna pay. And I think I had already paid her like $600. So me and my husband talked it over, and we were like, okay, we could do it virtually. But again, I should have told her no, because when I was in the midst of labor, I actually texted her and I was like, well, can you just go ahead and come out? And she tried to say that she was like, well, there's nothing I can do now, basically, because you're in labor. Like, basically, I'm just gonna be there watching you. And you know, she was just saying like she wasn't prepared to, this is my son, y'all. Hey, you gotta let go. Yeah. But she was just saying that she wasn't prepared to come in right now. And when I thought about it, I was like, wait a minute. So I'm 38 weeks pregnant. Like, when were you going to be prepared? And like I was saying on my last video, we were actually supposed to go over my birth plan that Saturday when I got induced. So yeah. And I realized, you know, after the fact that it would have been really helpful if she was there, because as far as like breastfeeding, I did not know what to do. Like, I was engorged. They did have like the staff there trying to help me, but it wasn't the same because my doula is a lactation consultant, and you know, she was trying to tell me to get the pump that's I think it's called a Haku. I think, y'all, I'll be pronouncing words wrong, so don't hold me to it. But it's the pump that's like it's kind of like a manual pump. It's like a suction pump. You know, she told me about getting that, but I'm like, I struggle with that because like the milk was not falling in. It was like falling out of it and stuff like that. So I really wish that she would have been there. So when I did, going back to what I was saying earlier, when we were supposed to meet, I was supposed to have one postpartum visit where we talk about my experience. And please go back and watch my video. I'm going to have that link in the description box because I could have died. And that was my birth story, basically. But I didn't have an opportunity to really process. And I'm not saying that it's, as far as me processing it, I'm not saying it's her fault. But I was supposed to have one postpartum visit where I was supposed to talk with her about my experience. I never got that opportunity. And then even in my postpartum experience, she was supposed to come over. I was telling her like, hey, I need help breastfeeding. And she tried to change the plans, you know. She was just like, oh, well, I'm across town seeing this other person. Like, do you mind if I change it to tomorrow because I don't want to be out late? So I was like, no, it's okay. Like, I really need the help right now. Like, I'm home. Like, I'm not doing anything. Like, you can come by. So, and then I'm thinking like, well, I'm paying you. So this was our agreement to meet. And it wasn't like late. It wasn't like 10 or 11 o'clock at night that we were supposed to meet. So I was just like, yeah, come over. Like, I'm paying you. And I really need help. So, what you got in your mouth? So, yeah. I really do feel like she really took advantage of me in a sense. And then when I did tell her, I said there must be some misunderstanding somewhere because what I really try to do is I try to get like a partial refund. And she was like, well, I've already rendered the services, so there is no refund basically. So I was just like, well, a partial refund would be fine with me. Because I told her, I was just like, and then we did end up talking because we were texting at first and we did end up talking. And I did tell her like, there must have been a miscommunication somewhere. And then I was just like, well, you know, you kept doing, like, the times that we were supposed to meet, we didn't meet and stuff like that. So I was just like, basically, you were dropping the ball. And it honestly, it kind of felt like she was as far as like her services for me, it felt like she was scheduling everything around her life in a sense. You know what I'm saying? Like if it wasn't going to inconvenience her, she didn't really give 100% to it. That's how it felt to me. And my thing is like, I understand like if you're taking on too much at one time, I understand that, but you need to communicate that with me and say, you know what, I can't do this, or like if you can work with me, like just tell me something, but don't leave me out there hanging when I'm supposed to be depending on you and when I'm paying you as well. So yeah, then after we talked, she goes, well, if you could just work with me and we can get past this. And I was just like, well, I need time to think about this. And I ended up telling her like I don't need her anymore. And pretty much she was pretty much done by that time anyways, because I had my son and I was only supposed to have one postpartum visit, so that was left. So and then tell you, besides not being at the hospital, let me tell you what really irked my nerves. She tried to say that because my package was switched to virtual, mind you, I had a regular package which cost $1,000 and something when I first hired her. When I was induced, the package was switched to virtual at her suggestion, right? She tried to go back and say that the times that she met with me, she did it as a favor because that was meeting in person was not part of the virtual package. So I'm thinking like, well, that's not my fault because, you know, you were the one that suggested changing it to a virtual package, and that's not my fault. Like, and my thinking was also like, you can't go back and change something that already happened. Because she tried to say, well, I didn't charge you for meeting with you and stuff. But I'm like, well, no, I was paying you for the regular package. So I paid for those visits. I don't care about it being changed later. But you can't go back and say, oh, well, I was really doing you a favor. Like, no, you weren't, because I was paying you at the time. So that was my whole thing. My son putting stuff in his mouth. Give me that. But I'm gonna stop it right there. I might go into more details later, but I don't want my videos to be long. So I'm just gonna say this, ladies. Like I was saying before, I think I just had one bad doula that was just doing her job half-heartedly, because I really felt like she didn't really give it 100%. And she tried to blame it on, she tried to say, well, you don't remember me telling you like I just had my son 6 months ago. And my thing was, well, if you needed time off, like, why did you take me on? Like, why did you take me on and then have me pay you? You know what I'm saying? So, and it wasn't like she was just doing, like, it wasn't like I was like a charity case to her, because, like I said, I was paying her and I had the full package, which, again, was $1,000 and something. I think it was like $1,400 or something. So, it wasn't that I couldn't pay her. It wasn't that I couldn't afford her. She was tripping. And I am looking into what I can do, which I might go into details later, but what I can do as far as like getting a refund back. But yeah, what I was gonna say, ladies, just make sure that you have a contract if you're trying to get a doula. Make sure that you ask like a lot of questions. I did ask questions when when I initially met with her. I just asked her questions. I asked her what her training was and stuff like that. And again, it was at the end of my pregnancy, so I was trying to like hurry stuff along. Maybe that was my fault, but just make sure you have a contract. Make sure you have some type of documentation as far as your payments and stuff like that. Yeah, and I hope that this helped somebody. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. Have you had a bad experience with a doula? Have you had a good experience with a doula? Let me know.